Welcome in to Calling the Shots, presented by Blue Shark Vodka. Appreciate y'all listening. I'm your host, Ross Martin, as always, joined by Jeff Schoettmer. We're recording on Tuesday morning, a little bit later than usual. The Tar Heels lost to Georgia Tech 21-17 to fall to 9-2. Bad loss. I thought it was one of the worst losses in the last at least 10 years or so. We got Jeff here. What's going on, man?
What's up, Ross? How you doing?
Pretty good here. It's cold here in Chapel Hill. Let's get right into it. We're going to talk about Georgia Tech a little bit, see what Jeff thought about that game, and then kind of move more into an NC State preview. Short week. Tar Heels take on the Wolfpack at home, 3:30 on Friday against NC State, the last regular season game of the year. All right, Jeff, Georgia Tech, brutal loss. UT had chances at the end to win, the chances throughout the game to win, and they fell short. What stood out to you? I think you want to start with defense. Is that how – or you want to start about being outcoached, right?
Yeah, I mean, just the overarching theme is just disappointment. We've watched this team grow throughout the year and win all these close games and really come together. They clinched the Coastal last week, and our fan base is at we were on a high. We have a possible Heisman contender, and we were talking about playoff chances, and then we kind of get slapped with reality in the face. And here's what I'll say about getting outcoached in this game. And it's hard for me to say, but I'm going to be brutally honest because I'm friends with a bunch of the guys on staff, and I worked with them for 4 years. So in this sport, you have to be brutally honest with yourself and I know all the coaches are looking at themselves in the mirror the next day and like, we didn't do as much as we could to help our team win that game. And here's what I mean by that. So, Georgia Tech's head coach obviously gets fired earlier in the year, and now they're playing with a head coach who really has nothing to lose. So he's taking chances. He's doing things to really, motivate his team. And our guys just look unprepared in terms of, like, at the beginning of the game, we're up 17-0. And then from that point forward, we just fall flat on our face. Like, our coaches have to will our team across the finish line there. And what I mean is we have to find, little intricacies to our offense or defense, some tweaks we can make just to get our team to the finish line and win the game. It doesn't matter if we win by 1 point or 27 points. At a game like this, at this stage of the season, no one cares. All that matters is we win the game, and our coaches didn't do enough to help them.
Yeah. I mean, so, like, in what ways were they outcoached? Was it preparation? Was it in-game adjustments? You mentioned that a little bit. Like, what could they have done differently? What stood out to you and how they were outcoached?
I think it was in-game adjustments to start, and especially just like finding things to keep the foot on the gas. That's been our biggest issue this year as a team. Is we get up on App State, we let them back in the game. We get up on Duke, we let them back in the game. We get up on Wake Forest, we let them back in the game. So we got to find ways, whether we slow down the game on offense and are just finding good run plays to, have success that way, because Drake was a little off and he was holding onto the ball longer than he should have. And he took 6 sacks. We got to find ways as an offensive coaching staff to maybe throw a little dink and dunk, get the ball out of Drake's hands, get some rhythm in our offense, maybe some up tempo, maybe it's some empty packages that we've had success with in the past. It's just, I don't know exactly what that, the right coaching move was to make because I'm not in there all week. But obviously what they were doing wasn't working, and they didn't change it. They just kept the same game flow all game. So
yeah, and what I thought was an important part of what Mac pointed out after the game and on Monday again was that he didn't like that they scored so quick, so early, because I think it did instill a little bit of complacency that it was going to be too easy. First play on offense, 80 yards, touchdown, 7-0. You kind of get the sense that it's going to be a blowout because that's what everyone said entering the game, that Georgia Tech wasn't good. UNC could roll over them. And then 10-0 and then 17-0. And then they came back and scored 21 straight. So that's kind of – you got to play to a standard. And I actually read a really good post on the Inside Carolina message boards about the fact that this team doesn't play to a standard. They kind of play up and down their competition. You said that against Appalachian State, even Georgia State. And you're seeing it again against Georgia Tech team, which you would think they could dominate. I mean, a team that's on their third quarterback, fourth quarterback, interim head coach, like you said, nothing to lose. Still fighting for a bowl game. Whereas UNC, they had Heisman, they had college football playoff outside chances. Getting to a good bowl game, getting to 10 wins, 12 wins. So it was just such a deflating, disappointing loss for UNC based on what they could have gained from this win.
Yeah, I think going on Coach Brown's statement about complacency of scoring on the first play, well, that's coaching.
Yeah.
Because we score on the first play, all the coaches got to grab the team and be like, look, guys, that doesn't matter. That's one play. We scored, move on. Now let's go play the rest of the game. Like, obviously, we'd rather start out with a 7-0 lead on the first offensive play of the game. But, at that point, rally your guys and be like, look, it doesn't matter. We got a whole bunch of a game left to play. And we got to keep our foot on the gas, and we didn't do that. So it's kind of an interesting comment he had about complacency. Like, that falls on the coaches as well.
Yeah, you got to put your foot on their throat and just keep putting pedal to the metal. I think it's playing the standards. I think his team has to kind of learn how to do, and that comes with more leadership and good coaching. Okay, where you want to go next? You want to go into defense?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to talk about how in college football it's okay to win ugly at times. And we've done that some this year. But at the end of the day, at the end of the game, all you're looking for is that win in the win column. And you look around the landscape of college football this week, you see Georgia is in a dogfight against Kentucky, who is underachieved this year. You see Ohio State, they don't play well. You see Michigan, they almost lose. You see TCU almost lose, and then you see Tennessee get their ass whooped. So, and we knew we were going to be in a trap game, right? We just clinched the Coastal. It's the week before our conference or our in-state rival. So everyone in the stands knows that. Everyone on the field knows that. All the coaches know that. And the fact that we weren't able to just push this game across the finish line and get the win is disheartening. And in the overall landscape of our season, here's where I'll take it. Did I think we were going to make it to the playoffs or have a chance to make the playoffs? Not really. And because we didn't control our own destiny, right? We were behind in the rankings. You got teams like USC and TCU that control their destiny ahead of us. So I think even if we won out and beat Clemson in the ACC championship, were we going to make the playoffs? Probably not. And once again, we got ahead of ourselves. We got to win the ACC championship before we win get it to the playoffs. So in the grand scheme of things, is this loss a huge damper on our season in terms of, the overall success of it? I don't think so. I think it's more about like the culture of Carolina football and how we not most of the time, we sometimes come up short in these big games that we're supposed to win by a lot.
Yeah, it's almost like you would think, Wake Forest would be the game they lose. And then
right.
Georgia Tech, like, you got to win these, especially at home. Georgia Tech is bottom of the Coastal. Like, you got to win the games you're supposed to win. And you would see, fell flat. I think flat's a good adjective there.
Yeah.
All right, you'll move into a little bit of the game breakdown here.
Yeah.
All right, defense. You want to talk about that? We'll get defense, and we'll do a little red zone offense, a little about Drake May, and then kind of move on to this week in NC State.
Yeah, if you watch the first 25 minutes of the game, our defense played as well as they have all year in terms of that stretch. Right, they were fitting up the gap scheme runs, with our two linebackers. Power and Said were playing really well. We were, when Georgia Tech was running the ball, we were knocking it down for 0 and 1 yards, and that's stuff we haven't really seen this year. Most of the time, we're getting dragged to 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 yards. Our eye discipline in the secondary was great. Storm Duck made another big play and getting the ball back. We got a turnover back for our offense. We got off the field in third down. Like, we were playing really well, and then all of a sudden the dreaded 2-minute drive comes up. And Georgia Tech started that drive the same way they played the whole rest of the first half. They were running the same gap scheme runs, the power reads with the quarterback, the counter plays, and we were fitting it up. And then all of a sudden they get a first down, they get some momentum, and the quarterback actually on the deep out route when Boykins was covering threw an unbelievable ball, and they made a great play. And one play I want to talk about on that 2-minute drive is so they ran a little angle pass where the running back gained about 40 yards to take it down to our red zone. You remember that play? The big play on the 2-minute drive?
Yep.
So I went back and watched it, and that play call was the perfect the play call on offense was the perfect play to beat that defensive coverage. So what the defense of coverage was, we ran what's called a trap pressure. It was a 5-man pressure, and we were playing a version of cover 2 in the secondary with our jack, the rush, or Chris Collins, dropping out and playing coverage. And in that defense, what you don't account for is the running back, because you're assuming that the blitz and the pressure is going to swallow the running back up, and he's got to pass protect. So what Georgia Tech did is, maybe they saw our signal. I don't know. Maybe they saw how the nickel and the Mike were creeping up to blitz off the edge, but they checked the play at the line of scrimmage, changed it to that play, and the quarterback knew exactly to throw to that running back. He knew that was his option because he was going to be uncovered in the blitz. And so that's just a win for Georgia Tech. On paper, it looks like, yes, we have struggled covering the running backs out of the backfield this year, but that one was just the perfect offensive play call against the perfect defensive play call.
Yeah, Cedric Gray said what really gave them trouble was the screenplays too. Like their big plays were the screens where UNC brought pressure and the quarterback just dinked it right over them and had blockers ahead of them, and that gave UNC a lot of trouble as well. They had to prepare for 2 quarterbacks they hadn't seen as much. Third and fourth string quarterback. Same issue this week. NC State's rolling out their 3rd and 4th string quarterback and might play both of them. So it's preparing for quarterbacks you haven't seen, which can pose some issues.
What bothered me with both quarterbacks playing was I can't pronounce the one that transferred from Clemson.
Yeah,
I can't pronounce his name, but when he came in the game, I don't know the stats, but I would have to assume it was 90% run. I think he had at least 10 carries, and either he was running the ball or handing the ball off. And we weren't able to stop that. And that's like, when you can hone in and know exactly, I'm a gambler. If I have the 90% run, or, I'm going to do all my run stopping calls. And, once again, the running quarterback was hurting us. And it's frustrating to watch, because everyone in the stands know that this guy isn't a thrower of the ball. He's a runner. He's either going to hand the ball off or run it himself.
Yeah, he had 10 rushes. You're exactly right. 10 rushes, 44 yards, touchdown. He only threw the ball 5 times, 2 for 5. Stats-wise, you're right. UNC's defense played pretty good. They held Georgia Tech to 3.8 yards per carry. I think you'll take that, right? 3.8 yards per carry. 186 rush yards total, 373 for the game. I thought a big moment was at the end of the second half, into the first half, like we always talk about, the middle 8, where State goes down and gets a score to cut it to 17-7, and UNC tried to do a 2-minute drill to score again and couldn't. That was a big play there. Okay, you want to move on to offense?
Yeah, I think, and we talked about this before the podcast, so I'm pinning this game on the defense more so than the offense.
It's surprising, because I think most people would think the other way.
Yeah, I think if you just look at the final score of the game and the stats, you're like, oh, it was the offense's fault. They didn't play well enough. But here's how I think it, and I'm a defensive guy, so ultimately I like to take the blame, on our shoulders. But so we play a Georgia Tech team that doesn't have a head coach. They on the 3rd and 4th string quarterback. They haven't been able to really score on anybody the last couple of weeks. And, we do give up 21 points and 300-something yards. In the grand scheme of things in college football, that looks like some pretty average numbers, and you should be able to win with that. But I think it's different because of this Georgia Tech, their ineptitude, honestly, on offense, that they shouldn't have been able to get that many points. I think the bar should have been under 10 points. And if we, obviously let up under 10, we win the game. Mm-hmm. But so I think we played well at times on defense, but our situational football was not good. The 2-minute drive before the half, we let up points. We didn't play well in the red zone. We let up touchdowns every time they were in the red zone. And then the third thing was the 4-minute drive to close the game. We couldn't stop them. Everyone in the stands knew they were running. They ran 11 plays in the last, 3 minutes or something. And we had chances to stop them multiple times, and we couldn't get it done when everyone knew they were running the ball.
Yeah, that last drive, I'm looking at here, it was, 10, 12 plays, it looks like. that just dragged the game out. UNC couldn't stop and get the ball back after the drop by Josh Downs. Okay, let's move to offense first. I want to talk to you about Blue Shark Vodka. Blue Shark Vodka is sponsor of Calling the Shots, based out of Wrightsville, North Carolina. We want to thank Connor Barth and everybody at Blue Shark Vodka for sponsoring the show, sponsoring the Scoop and On the Beat. Blue Shark Vodka, the smoothest vodka in the world. People love it. Smooth. It's accessible price point. It's available in all 100 North Carolina counties. If you're drinking vodka, need a holiday, this is a holiday spirit, check out Blue Shark Vodka at your local ABC store. Tell them Inside Carolina sent you. If you are drinking, if you're making a cocktail, a punch this holiday, tag me on Twitter, and I'll retweet it. Blue Shark Vodka. I want to thank them for their support of this show all season long. Okay, quickly here, we'll get through offense here against Georgia Tech. I thought Drake May was a little bit off. I thought Josh Downs was off. I mean, defense said it, or no, I think Drake said it. Like, if the defense holds them to 21, you would think this offense could score over 21 and win the game. They only scored 17. They were 2-5 in the red zone. They were let me pull this up here. Sorry about that. They were 8 for 15. Sorry, that's not right. 4 for 14 on third down and 2 for 4 on fourth down. Usually really good on fourth down. 2 for 4 is not awful. Your thoughts in general, then we'll get into, I think, red zones we want to talk about.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, Drake looked a little human, but because he's looked like an alien this whole year. You know, everything he's done has been so unbelievable. But it wasn't all. Drake still did make some really good plays, some really good throws. We had some drops at receiver. So I think Drake's numbers get skewed because, you know, we didn't make some plays that we should have for him. I think the biggest thing with Drake this game was his how he navigated in the pocket and how he took sacks that he could have gotten the ball out of his hands and thrown away. And, you know, he took too many sacks. We give up 6 sacks, and not all of them were on the offensive line. You know, Drake was holding the ball, patting the ball a little bit. I think he was, you know, trying to make a play downfield or something just to try to get some spark in the offense. And he was kind of doing too much instead of, you know, getting the ball out of his hands like he has all year. But that, I mean, this is going to be a good learning experience for him going forward, because this was really the first time where he's looked, you know, not as good as he has.
Yeah.
But we moved the ball well at times, but the biggest thing that hurt us in putting up points was our red zone offense. You know, when you get down there and you only score, and you get down there 5 times, you only score touchdowns twice, you know, that's an issue, especially because we've been pretty good with our red zone offense this year. And some of it was play calling. I don't think Coach Longo did a great job this week of his play calling in the offense. And what gets me kind of with him is when we're in key situations in the game and we go under center. You know, that's not our offense. We go from the 20 to the 20. We're shotgun. We're up tempo. We're doing some things, and then we get down to the red zone and we completely change our offense. And at times it's worked this year, and at times it's very defenses know exactly what we're doing because we only have 2 or 3 plays off of it. And putting Drake under center, I just don't think he's as comfortable there. He's turning his back to the defense when he's, you know, doing his play fakes and stuff. You know, one of Drake's best attributes is his ability to see the whole field. So if we're going to run the ball, great. But if we're going to throw the ball out of under center, I don't agree with it. I think we just put him in shotgun where he can, you know, see the coverages, you know, see everything right in front of him. And that's just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I mean, did not score in the second half, which is very, very surprising. This is the first game where Drake did not throw for a touchdown. So just a lot of odd things. I think he was off, like you said. 2 3 and outs. I think 1 4 and out. Punted 3 times in the second half, and had an interception as well. Turnover on down. So just a very bad second half offense. So it was just an off game all the way around, I thought. What would you like them to do? Is there anything else in the red zone offense? I mean, other than, you know, take a shotgun snap in the red zone that you saw?
I just think we run the ball well at times when we're in the normal field of play, and I feel like we can just run those same run plays in the red zone instead of, I think we do a great job of it when we have everyone spread out in our offense and we just let our running backs kind of navigate and cut through there and use their vision and quickness and burst. Instead, we bring a bunch of guys in the box. So now Georgia Tech or the opponent's defense has all their guys in the box, and now there's not as much space because there's already not enough space in the red zone as it is because the field's condensed. Yeah. So I think maybe just open our offense back up and run the same exact plays we run in the middle of the field. I mean, maybe that's too simple, but I don't know.
Yeah, Josh Downs, they double teamed him the whole game. That's what Drake said. Only 3 catches for 31 yards. The big drop. I mean, we're not talking about any of this if he catches the ball in the end zone. He's made some plays for UNC, so it's hard to blame him. But that was a big, big drop. Everything was going towards that play, corner of the end zone. He's in the end zone and he drops it. Without Antoine Green, it's important to mention as well. He changes everything. When you can take a top off a defense, it moves the safety around, lets you do a lot more things in terms of running the ball and underneath stuff. And then at running back, they played more running backs. You saw Amarian Hampton. You saw George Pedway with a catch. DJ Jones had 4 rushes. And then Elijah Green had the big run to start the game for 80 yards. But after that, he only totaled 92 yards. So he had 10 rushes for 92. It looks kind of good on paper, but you take away that 1 rush for 80, it's 9 rushes for 90 for 12 yards, which is definitely not a good average there. 2 touchdowns for Green. Anything else on offense? I think one thing as we transition to State, they're going to be motivated now against State. I mean, following this loss, there's a lot more. There's no more sleepwalking after you get beat like that by Georgia Tech.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's talk about State. I like talking about them.
All right, we'll move to the State portion of this. Let's start with this week. It's a short week. Jeff's been in the program. So the game's on Friday. So everything's moved up a week. So starting Saturday night, what's the staff doing Saturday night? How does it change for the staff Sunday, Monday? And then we'll get into what the players do.
Yeah, so the staff, I assume, probably graded and watched the Georgia Tech tape and just try to figure out some, minor corrections. But Sunday morning, they came in and completely started on NC State. And I know that they've had some of the sports support staff, like the analysts and the GAs, already breaking down the NC State tape in weeks prior, just so they can kind of get a head start of it. Sometimes they'll watch a little NC State film on the bye week, or maybe they're watching it on a Friday morning. So they're already preparing a little bit for NC State. But the players had, Sunday completely off. It's obvious. It's a mandatory, day off. They have to have 1 a week.
Yeah. So usually UNC has Monday off. Players, there's no practices or any team led stuff. So that gets moved to Sunday. So players have Sunday off. Staff is in their game planning, and then
Monday. So essentially everything gets pushed up a day. So Monday was a quote unquote Tuesday paper. So that's the big work day of practice. So the coaches were in there all Sunday getting the first and second down game plan on defense ready, and then the offense obviously getting their base install in. So really all it does is just push everything up a day. But I think the biggest thing is it's usually the physicality in practice, and the practice times are toned down a little bit. Just because you have 1 less rest day and you're playing a day earlier, that maybe you don't practice as long. Maybe you don't hit as much in practice. Maybe you're only in pads 1 day, and maybe you're doing more walkthroughs and more film sessions than you are doing physical, strenuous practices. If that makes sense.
So Monday is a Tuesday, and then Tuesday is your Wednesday, which is final install.
Yeah,
another kind of day of practice. And then,
I bet quote unquote Wednesday and Thursday's practices were just in helmets and more mental reps than they were physical.
And then Thursday's your walkthrough, which is usually Friday, and then Friday's the game, 3:30 on ABC. With NC State, I think quarterback's obviously the most important position. MJ Morris is out. They're going to be rolling with, according to a source, a combination of Ben Finley and the Chambers kid, transfer from Charleston Southern, who hasn't been that good. I don't even know his first name as I look this up. Jack Chambers, who got benched in favor of MJ Morris. So, and they have little tape on both guys. Ben Finley hasn't played any except for Louisville. So, as a defensive coordinator, how do you prepare for 2 different quarterbacks, both who haven't played much, both who aren't that good? against UNC on Friday?
Yeah, I think the first thing you look at is the style of quarterback they are. I think the Chambers kid is more of a runner. I haven't really watched him much this year, but I know he has some run game element to his game. And then I think the other kid is more of a pocket passer. So probably what they'll do is have packages for both, and which I hope they do, because obviously we haven't done well with a running quarterback this year. So if we know the Chambers kid is a runner, we better be honing in on something to slow him down a little bit. But what they're doing is definitely doing two packages based on what quarterback's in the game, and that's what the defensive coordinator did when I was on staff. When you're playing a running quarterback, you have to have more run calls. When you're playing a pocket passer, maybe you can do some more coverage aspects and hopefully just rush 4.
Yeah, and looking at kind of the Louisville box score, Ben Finley threw 35 passes. So he was in the majority of the game, 16 for 35 for 201 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, a 57.3. I got an ad playing now. All right. And then the Jack Chambers kid, 6 rushes, 7 throws. So they split time, but Finley seemed like the guy they're rolling with. What else are you looking for against State? I mean, their defense is really good. They have the three linebackers that have been there forever. Drake Thomas, Peyton Wilson, the former UNC commitment, and Isaiah Moore. Anything else? This is a huge game for UNC based on what happened last year.
Yeah, I just think this is a must win for us in terms of kind of the culture of our fan base, in terms of on paper, obviously this game doesn't have a huge deciding factor in our season, in terms of if we lose this game and then go beat Clemson in the ACC championship, I think all of our fans will deem it a success. Mm-hmm. But I think if we lose this game, just based on how last year happened and kind of how this last week has played out, then our fans will be rightfully disappointed. Coming into this season, NC State was, everyone was picking them to be, a top 10 team and possibly win the ACC championship, and they haven't lived up to their expectations. But now we can kind of flip the script, because we've come from kind of out of the weeds to a team that's got as high as number 13 in the country. So we can really put a stamp on our quote unquote culture. That's the most overused phrase in college football. But it's both of these head coaches have their culture established. Like Dave Doran has been there for 7-8 years, and whether he has a starting quarterback or not, look, you've recruited for this long, you've been there, you've established your culture, so your team should just be able to play, based on how you've laid the groundwork for your foundation. And same with Coach Brown. This is his 4th year at Carolina. There's no excuses for losing this game. Especially with how we've recruited, how much talent we have in the program, who we have at quarterback. This is a must win game for Coach Brown, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think in terms of momentum for the program, it's huge, because if they lost Georgia Tech, and if you lose to NC State, and then you lose to Clemson. Look, Clemson, I mean, that's going to be a tough game to win. Like, winning that would be, I think, surprising for most. UNC is going to be a dog in that game. So to close with 3 losses, like, that is a way – that's just whimpering out of the regular season. And then who knows in the bowl game? Like, you can have less motivation. So getting this one, having a chance in Clemson and going to the bowl game, a lot better than losing 3 straight to close the year, including the championship game. So I think you're right. I mean, it's always, you always want to beat your rival, especially with recruiting battles at play, in-state stuff like that. But closing with 2 losses to Georgia Tech and State would be disappointing, just based on how those teams' seasons have turned out. Last year, awful loss last year, the last 2 minutes. You were on the staff, you were on the defensive staff. Take us inside that room. What that game was like after that, quickly, and then I want to get to some motivations here.
I think everyone was just at a loss for words. There wasn't much. There was seriously, the locker room was as quiet as a library after that game. It was one of the most heartbreaking, maybe the most heartbreaking loss I've ever been a part of as a player or a coach. And what I think Coach Brown does do a good job of is finding little and he's not even going to have motivation for this game because number one, we're coming off a loss and how badly we played this past game, and number two, 90% of our team did play in last year's game,
Yeah.
and if that isn't enough motivation, then I don't know what is. There's so many motivating factors this week. None of our guys like NC State. Last year's game has a huge impact on it, and then losing to Georgia Tech. So like, there's going to be a ton of emotion in the stadium, and it's Coach Brown honestly isn't even going to need to do anything to motivate our guys. Like I was leading with, he does a great job of finding little things to motivate our guys, but he doesn't need to do anything this week. So
yeah, it's a huge one. 3:30 on ABC. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we get out of here?
I've just always been curious so I didn't grow up in the North Carolina State rivalry, and since I've lived in North Carolina, obviously I don't live there now, but I've always heard NC State fans just think that their program is so much better than Carolina, and I had to do some like deep diving and like actually the two programs to see why they think that, and I think maybe they think it's because of recency bias in terms of they've won more head-to-head games in the last 15 years, I guess. But since Dave Doran's been there, I think they've won 5 out of 9. So not that they've won a crazy amount of games, right? It's 5-4 in the last 9 years. But looking at North Carolina versus NC State, their head-to-head wins, UNC has more. We have a better all-time record. We have more bowl games. We have more All-Americans. We have NFL draft picks. So like, I don't really understand the comparisons in the program and why NC State fans think that their program is so much more prestigious. Like neither of us have competed as high on a national level. Like we're both regional teams that have had some success on different years, but I don't understand why they think that their program is so much. Can you help me out, Ross? I don't know.
Yeah. So you said that I think Dorn's 5-4. Is that right? Is that what you said?
5-4. That's what I believe.
Yeah. That's what I'm looking at here. Yeah, and UNC has overall UNC's won 68. It's 68, 30. It's a 37, and then 6 ties. I don't know why the ties happened. Must have been a long time ago or something. But yeah, I mean, it's the same. They're the same type of programs. I have a buddy that always says it's the Spider-Man meme. Like 2 programs that are exactly the same. They have sometimes they have seasons where they're top 10. They have chances, but it's usually mediocre teams, and that's just kind of like you said, kind of regional teams that have never threatened nationally. They're very, very similar in type of program they are, and that's maybe why they hate each other so much.
So I don't think they've had a top 10 or a 10-win season in 25, 30 years, and I think we've had 5 since they've had 1.
Yeah, I'm not sure State fans think it's a better program. I just think they lean more on football than basketball, especially basketball's been so bad. I mean, my State buddies do not like Dave Doran. I think it's about time to go for him. But I'm not sure they can do much better than him either. It's the NC State, just growing up here, the NC State-UNC rivalry is this classic kind of cultural battle of the, little brother, UNC being the more elite school, the flagship school versus the agricultural technical school. It's just the classic battle. You see it at Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Alabama, Auburn, Texas A&M, Texas. It's the same deal there. But
I will say they have good fans at the game. They get loud, they get rowdy, they have a good atmosphere over there, and I always enjoy playing over there. But I think they're a little, I don't know. They just think that their program is a lot better than it is.
I think delusional is the word you're looking for. They have a great fan base, collectively, not individually. I mean, they get up for football. It's a great tailgating scene over there because it's right, it's off campus. So they have the whole State Fair parking lot. It's a better setup in terms of that, whereas UNC has on campus. But it's always a great game. It's a crazy thing. It'll be a good one on Friday. They have a good defense. The offense is struggling. They're coming off 2 losses. I mean, this would be a way for NC State to kind of save their season. They're 7-4 overall. UNC's looking for a 10th win, so it should be a good one in Chapel Hill. Jeff, you good? Anything else?
That's all I got.
All right. We will catch y'all next time. I will be in Portland, so we'll have to figure out the schedule for that one. We want to thank Blue Shark Vodka for sponsoring this show. Calling the shots, UNC Falls, Georgia Tech. 21-17. They have State this weekend. We appreciate y'all watching.